we got a step closer, yeah.
Yeah.
So when it comes to wildlife management on the reservation, we've been successful at managing 6 of the 7 ungulates, as well as the predator species that were here when Lewis and Clark arrived. Animals that we would seek out and utilize as food and tools. When we were able to restore the buffalo, it had been an 80-year plus process. Our leadership within the Shoshone tribe was talking about bringing buffalo here 80 years ago. From a wildlife standpoint, and from my family, my father was talking about buffalo restoration during his career as a wildlife biologist 30 years ago. After our trip to Africa and returning to go to school, I've been working on it about 12 years. It was a long process to get buffalo restored to this reservation, primarily because of the controversy around disease. We have a deep-seated mindset in this region, in this country, that was established by cattle barons after the buffalo were removed from the landscape. When buffalo were wiped out and Indian tribes were put on reservations, it opened up vast tracts of land to cattle operators. So cattle were brought west and utilized as economic venture and a food venture. Those cattle industries and cattlemen operators have a lock on how we manage lands in the West, not only public lands, but also reservation lands. When cattle were brought out, they brought a disease called brucellosis that infected the wildlife species, primarily the buffalo and elk. States like Wyoming and Idaho and Montana decided that they needed to have brucellosis-free states so that they would be able to export beef outside of those states for American consumption. When they eradicated those diseases in their livestock, there was little that could be done for the infected wildlife species. And so, in thinking about Yellowstone, buffalo and elk that carry brucellosis within the park, when they leave the park, that jeopardizes the cattle industry. Buffalo have gotten the short end of the stick when it comes to that, because economically elk are very viable and important in the state. So say Jackson, when they had a resident elk herd, it created a lot of tourist opportunities and hunting and sportsman opportunities. So they've never really wanted to see that jeopardized in any way. They also created feed grounds where they could help congregate and feed the elk so they wouldn't starve to death. And this limited the migrations of elk that were in place for thousands of years also. Elk can move freely within and around Yellowstone. They cross the boundaries. Buffalo, however, they cannot. And this has been a huge issue as buffalo try to leave the park, specifically in the northern boundary, to get to better winter forage. It's been the practice of the Montana Department of Livestock as well as APHIS that they not be allowed to do that. So buffalo are killed as they leave the park. Elk, however, can move freely. So we have a disparity between the science and the management when it comes to how we manage buffalo versus elk. Scientifically, we can now show that elk are a bigger threat to cattle than the bison are. There's never been a documented case of a bison given a cow brucellosis. There has been, though, with elk.